These right here are the 5 most popular reptiles in the world. I'll start out with the hardest one in my opinion of these 5, the bearded dragon. Bearded dragons are generally very docile. That's why they're a very popular reptile to keep. They are harder than the rest on this species because of some of their needs. They must have UVB. It's like required. If you don't have UVB, your bearded dragon is going to have a very short and painful life because of something called metabolic bone disease. I'll show you a picture of metabolic bone disease right here. It's really, really bad for your bearded dragon. It deforms its limbs and it is super painful on any animals. All animals could get metabolic bone disease, but bearded dragons are very, very prone to it. So in my opinion, bearded dragons are the hardest on this list, but they're also very rewarding creatures. They are omnivores. They can eat vegetables and insects, so that's cool to see them eating something other than just bugs or powdered meal like crested geckos would. Another cool thing they can do is puff out their beards. They'll puff out their beards when they're like warding off predators or when they're stressed or when they're trying to get a mate. So it does look really cool. I'll show you a picture of a puffed bearded dragon right here. It's really cool looking. Sometimes they're black or sometimes they're just the color of the bearded dragon. I'm not exactly sure how that works, how they change it or not, but it's pretty cool. Next up is corn snakes. They're really cool looking. They're a smaller species of snake and they have like stripes usually. There's tons of different morphs though, so you can always count on there being a ton of different types of corn snakes, so you always have something to choose from. They are easier to care for than bearded dragons, but they do have some other challenges, such as they're very good escape artists. They like to find any possible way to get out of their enclosure, so if you ever have a corn snake, make sure to secure it very, very well. Like, they can come out of the smallest holes. Even if you think, I can't get out of that, you better check, because it probably can. Corn snakes are native to North America, so you can kind of see them if you're around here in America. Sometimes they're kind of elusive, so you may not see one even if you go looking for them, but they are really cool. But it is a very good beginner snake as long as you know how to take care of it. Ball pythons are considered the most popular pet snake to keep. They are the coolest ones in my opinion. If I could get a ball python, I would get one on the spot. They're really awesome. They can get pretty big. I think they get like maximum like 5-6 feet. I'll put it up on the screen just to be sure, but I think that's how big they get. They're known for curling up into a ball when they're trying to hide, which is their ball python. That's where that comes from. So that's a pretty cool thing about them. They also have many morphs, so there's like really an endless amount. Ball pythons are one of the most popular snakes, so that means you're gonna find the most variety of different kinds. In my opinion, they're one of the coolest snakes to care for, and probably one of the easiest. I'm sure there's a few out there easier to care for than a ball python, but they're pretty easy to handle. And also they don't need a huge enclosure, but they do need a decent size enclosure because they are a bigger snake. The next one is a crested gecko. They're like, I'd say, the 3rd most common species of gecko to care for behind leopard geckos and bearded dragons. They're native to New Caledonia. There's a lot of really cool lizards in New Caledonia, and some of them are literally only found in New Caledonia, which is pretty cool. I think crested geckos are one of them, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Crested geckos actually can't regrow their tail unlike leopard geckos can. When they lose it, it's not gonna grow back, which is kind of sad, but also they can look kind of funny. We call them like a toad butt, I think is what most people call them when they don't have a tail. They do look kind of funny, but it is sad that they can't regrow their tail. Crested geckos kind of have a cool appearance. Some people don't like the look of them, but I really do. They have like a crest along the side of their head. That's where they get the crested gecko name from. They come in lots of different morphs and varieties, like most all popular reptiles. They can be orange, they can be brown, they can be all sorts of colors. They're really cool looking. They're arboreal species, so that means that they can climb really well. So instead of having a long enclosure like my leopard gecko enclosure, you want to have a taller enclosure that they can climb in where there's lots of plants to hide. So the most popular and easy to care for lizard in my opinion is a leopard gecko. They are really cool. They have awesome different colors. This one is just a wild type, so it's not specifically bred for any traits, but there is some like pure white ones, there's black ones. They're really cool. They are such docile creatures. You can care for them the easiest, in my opinion, at least out of the popular and more fun geckos or species to handle and own. Some are easier, but they're just not quite as cool as these leopard geckos and the other animals on this list. They need a decent sized enclosure. This enclosure, I believe, is like 30 inches by like 12 inches, so it's pretty big. You don't have to have one as big as mine, but it is a good idea to have as big enclosure as you can. Unless you can somehow get an enclosure that's like the size of your room, that's not necessary. Like an enclosure this size or maybe a little smaller is perfectly fine. They are really cool species and they are super handleable. They only eat insects. They're complete insectivores, so I feed mine mealworms, crickets, and I'm going to start feeding them dubias soon once I get my breeding colony nice and going so that I don't depopulate the entire civilization is what I meant to say. Leopard geckos are one of the only lizards that can actually blink. So, I mean, leopard geckos are the only geckos that can actually blink. I think there are some lizards that are able to blink. But it's pretty cool because if you look close enough, they will blink. They do drop their tail, and unlike crested geckos, they can grow them back. They don't look as good when they grow back as when they first got them because they can't grow back perfectly. So you gotta be careful. Don't go pulling your lizard's tail off just to see how it looks. Not good for them. They store a lot of their nutrients in their tail, so they can survive like over 2 weeks off of just the nutrients in their tail. Wouldn't try that if I were you. That's not healthy for your leopard gecko. If you want to see more of my videos, here's one right here that you can watch. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.